The single playerness of Uncharted is a lot different than the multiplayer for Call of Duty, right? So Call of Duty, they put more and more emphasis as each iteration comes out into the multiplayer aspect, and Uncharted's a little different because the assumption is when you pick up Uncharted that you're buying you're buying Indiana Jones that you're playing, right? So it's that you're playing into a movie. So there's a lot of different set of expectations that comes along versus something like Call of Duty where the assumption is more and more like the single player story is less and less important for that. Not to say that it's not, people don't play it, but mainly the reason people buy those games now is the multiplayer.
The advent of the personal computer allows people to, okay, just play my game against the computer and not interacting with people. The net has allowed us to interact with people around the world. It's quite a different interaction than sitting in a room playing with someone. It's a different kind of social. I'm not sure, qualifying as good or bad. It is different. The people who play online, they make their connections and friends just as people in face to face. But the question comes down to, well, what's the long-term nature of those online connections? Are they more fleeting? Are they as in depth? They have different advantages and disadvantages. Obviously, if you play a game with some people, then you need someone to help you move. Well, if they're face to face, you can have them help you. But if they're someone in Australia playing a game with, well, it becomes they're still your friend. You still interact with them, but it's a different setting, different feel.
Well, I understand from a developer's perspective. I understand why they do it. It's generally to combat piracy. So they spend millions and millions of dollars making these games, and then if people are stealing it, then it becomes really difficult for them to continue making those games. So a way for them to combat that is to make it an online component where you have to check in with their server, which then authenticates whether you have bought the game or not. So that's why.
I've made games, I've sold games. I understand why you want to have your digital rights. You don't want people to steal your game. However, oftentimes the ways companies come up with a way to protect themselves isn't necessarily the best. So that's why if you look at the mobile game, they're moving to microtransactions in the game where you buy stuff in the game. Therefore, I don't have to sell you the game. I just give you the game, and by playing, you're going to have to buy fuel, or you're going to have to buy a special hat. And therefore, I make money, and I don't have to worry about someone stealing the game. And so that I see as an evolution that a lot of companies are going towards.
I like a lot of female lead characters. I think most of them are pretty cool.
And the truth.
If I were to have like a peeve about, I guess I could say that some of them are kind of over-sexualized a little bit, and I don't know whether that's like a male or a female push for that. But the majority of the female lead characters that I see are just like any others. They're part of the story, they're cool, they have strengths and weaknesses.
The satisfaction of being able to successfully come up with a plan and deploy it and see it to fruition. So that, I can say, okay, well, I want to create an empire of this size, or I want to reach this goal, and therefore I can work on it. I can come up with a plan, I can implement the plan, the minutia as well as the grand scale. And so I'm a planner or designer, or I like to make nice looking cities, but I have to have the best city. So it gives me that ability to be creative. Games that oftentimes play, such as the Civ or the Master of Orion, there's also exploration. You're exploring the unknown, you're finding new areas and decide, okay, what am I going to do with this area? So it combines the explorer, the creative, and the resource management planning.
RPGs are really lengthy, as opposed to like side-scrolling games with levels that are like quickly defeated. So an RPG is kind of more similar to a fantasy novel where you play a character that has a very in-depth backstory, and you kind of live out their life and their choices.
But at last, the whole of Azeroth will